Chicagoland weather forecast in the AM 560 Weather Center. Snow 2 to 4 inches throughout the day. And by the afternoon drive, roads will be snowpacked and slippery, a high of 12. Could see another 4 to 8 inches of snow depending on where you are overnight, and a low of 8. Currently light snow falling. We have 1 above. Next news at 9. And Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen to AM 560, The Answer, online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, and your Alexa-powered smart speaker, on TuneIn, iHeart, and radio.com.
From the Matrix Home Solutions studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
They so fake woke, facts don't care about feelings. They know they won't tell me what to believe in. They so
all right, who sings this song?
Tom McDonald.
Tom McDonald.
Tom McDonald.
He's your new jam.
Oh, that's my guy. I've been with him since I first heard him a couple of years ago.
And that name of the song is Fake Woke.
Fake Woke.
Yeah, but his his lyrics though are spot on.
Spot on. It fits today's culture perfectly.
The cancel culture.
Yes.
And then,
Yes.
this ultra woke thing that's going on. And tomorrow is the day, folks, that your state reps are going to be voting. Am I correct? Because you're a former state rep.
Yes.
Voting on this new curriculum.
Yeah.
This indoctrination. How would you describe what this is?
Indoctrination is a perfect term.
Yeah.
And
I'm so smart.
I think it's a J car. I don't think the full body's voting. I think it's the joint committee I think it's a joint committee vote. So there's 12 people that are going to be voting on this emergency rule.
All right. Well, with more on that, let's welcome to the program Stanley Kurtz, senior fellow at the Ethics and Public Policy Center. His article, Ultra Woke Illinois Mandates Are Top Threat to U.S. Education. Good morning, Stanley. How are you?
I'm great, Amy. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, so what's going to be happening tomorrow? Walk us through it.
Well, tomorrow, the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules, the JCAR, is going to be voting on new teaching standards for Illinois teachers, and they really will force teachers to indoctrinate their children or train them to do that. Teachers originally were told that they have to teach in progressive political terms. Now, they cut that word out because it caused such a hue and cry. But the truth is, if you read everything else in the standards, it still is forcing them to be progressive. They have to affirm that America is a systemically racist society. They have to affirm the fact that there are multiple genders and fluid gender identity. They have to lead their students in protest and even lobbying expedition. They're even encouraged, teachers are encouraged to grade students on their social justice activism, not just their test performance. And if a teacher doesn't do all of these things, then they're encouraged to consider some kind of therapy to mitigate their Eurocentrism or even their whiteness. So this is a very extreme set of teaching standards. The Illinois Board of Education claims that it has nothing to do with curriculum because it's only about teacher training, but they're training teachers and telling them what to do in class with the curriculum. So the school board just isn't telling the truth about just how much this rule is pushing indoctrination on Illinois schools.
I have so many questions, but first one. So would there come a day where they would take our children, with the permission slip signed, of course, to an Antifa or a BLM rally?
Well, actually, believe it or not, this can happen right now in Illinois. Illinois leads the country in a politicized version of civics. There was a civics law passed in Illinois in 2015 and further legislation since then that creates something called Action Civics. And Action Civics means that Illinois students are encouraged to do protesting and demonstrating as part of their so-called civics education. They're also encouraged to do what's called service learning, but really it involves signing up as a volunteer with mostly left-leaning community organizations, and usually that also means joining in protests or demonstrations. So instead of that being the bottom of the slippery slope, it's actually happening now.
Wow. Well, Stanley, I as a former state legislator, I'm so confused by the process of how they're going through JCAR instead of allowing this to go through the legislative body. You have 12 people voting for this, and I don't know if it's a proposed rules and the emergency rules or the preemptory rules, the different rules depending on how it's introduced in JCAR. I don't know if you know that, but what does it say about Illinois that it goes through JCAR instead of the entire legislative body, so that all 159 of the legislators and senators can have a real debate about how this will affect Illinois residents and students for years to come?
You make a great point, John, and a lot of the legislators right now are complaining about exactly the point that you have raised. This, properly speaking, goes way beyond any law that the legislature has passed. Supposedly, administrative rules are just putting into effect in more detail the laws that the state legislature has passed and the governor has signed. But this goes way beyond that. Now, JCAR, as a committee, is supposed to just check over these rules and make sure they don't go beyond the law. But in this case, that's unlikely to happen. And a lot of the legislators I've heard discussing this are saying that the legislature has gotten into a bad habit of kicking a lot of tough decisions over to the bureaucrats, the unelected bureaucrats. Yeah. And then it comes before JCAR, and JCAR rubber stamps it, and presto, you've got a situation where a left-leaning bureaucrat can push what is in effect a new law on the state without it having gone through democratic procedures, and I'm afraid that's what we're seeing happening here.
Is there anything parents can do, and does this just apply to public schools? I can't get involved in Catholic schools or private schools, correct?
Well, technically that's correct, Amy, but there's a sense in which it could eventually have an effect, say, on a Catholic parochial school. Catholic schools and other private and denominational schools often prefer to hire teachers who have been certified by the state. Now, they don't have to do that, but there are various reasons why they want to do that. Now they're going to be forced into a decision. Do we want to continue to hire teachers who've gone through this certification process, which has now become totally politicized, or do we start looking for teachers who haven't done that? And if that's the case, how do we make sure they're properly trained? So it really is going to put even private schools into a pickle.
Yeah, and Stanley, I'm going to tell you, if you're a parent out there, the best way to push back against this process is to contact your state legislator who's on JCAR and your state legislator within the district. And when you contact the person in JCAR, make sure that you are a representative. I mean, that they're your representative, because otherwise they're not going to listen to you. So I believe parents who are frustrated and upset about this,
well, this is
go
scary
after that.
Stuff.
Yeah, it is. It's beyond scary.
I mean, where are we living? What happened to our America?
Yeah.
I do think that if the public floods JCAR with emails and phone calls, even between now and tomorrow, there might be a change. The deck is stacked against people who object to this rule, but it's not impossible. Rules have changed before. The Chicago Tribune came out today just with an editorial saying the standard should be put on hold. So I don't think it's hopeless, and I think if people were to contact the members of JCAR and their own representatives with emails and phone calls, it's possible that this could be put into suspension. If it's not, then I think Illinois is headed down a very extreme path.
Who came up with this idea? Who thought that, sat down like, this is going to be a great idea? Let's indoctrinate students. Was it this? Who was it?
Well,
was it school board? Was it a state rep?
It was the school board, but ultimately, of course, Governor Pritzker is responsible for this. It's coming from his administration, and he's someone else who could put this rule on hold. But it was the school board, and it began before the demonstrations of this summer, but I do think they influenced probably the direction in which it went, which has been a very radical direction. And so this, again, I think these are left-leaning bureaucrats. The school board appointed a committee to form up these rules consisting of, I think, pretty strong leftist advocates. Many of them were teachers, but they were coming from advocacy groups, and some of them, I think, may have been legislators themselves on the committee that drew this up. Yeah. this is a sign of what the woke folks where they want us
We
to
got a
go
song
as
for
a
that.
country.
But Stanley, to me, I think it's a little bit more sinister. I think it's to indoctrinate these young, impressionable minds for the ultimate thing, their vote, and now they're gonna in Illinois they want to reduce the age to voting to 16 years old.
Of course they do.
Oh, I completely agree. And I think if you look at the way the civics law has been enforced, you'll see one of the things the legislature did with the civics law, and this was the idea of these leftist advocates, was to allow private money to come in and help to fund it. Now, that sounded like something that would help save money for the state, but what in practice it's meant that these leftist foundations in Chicago have been able to take control of the civics curriculum, and then they go out to the more conservative areas of the state and try to push it on the teachers there. So I do think this is an attempt, and you'll see it in other states, to turn the red areas of the country blue. I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to keep an eye on this, and thank you so much, Stanley Kurtz, Senior Fellow at the Ethics and Public Policy Center, in his article, Ultra Woke Illinois Mandates Are Top Threat to U.S. Education. Thank you so much, Mr. Kurtz, for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
Your show keeps me alive during the week. There's nobody I'd rather listen to between 5 and 9 in the morning than you guys.
On AM 560, The Answer.
Nobody wants to need an attorney, but when you do, you need to find the right firm, the one that shares your values and will take your case personally. That's Cuda Law. You get the entire Cuda Law team working on your case, even the cell phone number of your lead attorney. Cuda Law wins. Go to CUDALaw.com. Cuda Law has the experience to get you a victory with any kind of personal injury, workers' compensation, medical malpractice, or COVID-related injuries or work injuries. Cuda Law wins. And you're not a number. You're not a case. You're a person that needs help. The Cuda Law team takes it personally and will put in the time and effort to get you the best outcome. Go to CUDALaw.com. CUDALaw.com. Cuda Law wins. Talk about your case and get real honest advice from the only law firm that wants to win as bad as you do. Cuda Law. You can chat with them too right now at CUDALaw.com. CUDALaw.com. Cuda Law wins.
All right, it's freezing out. Do you have cold floors? The problem is probably in the basement or the crawl space. Permaseal can now help make your basement and crawl space warmer, and therefore your upstairs more comfortable with their new product, PermaFoam Insulation. Permaseal can spray this insulating foam between your floor joists, which not only increase your energy efficiency, but will also stop insects and rodents from coming in. It's mold and mildew